2024. Just a reminder, this meeting is being recorded and live streamed on YouTube. Just moving on to item 1, which is apologies for absence. So far, I've received apologies from Councillor Ben Clark, and Councillor Woodrup will be leaving around 7:30 this evening. Is there any other apologies? Councillor Oates.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have apologies for Councillor Bailey, Councillor Jay and Councillor Turner.
Thank you ever so much for that. Agenda item 2, to receive the minutes from the previous meeting, which was dated the 10th of September 2024. Can I ask if there's any items raised regarding the minutes? Can I have a mover? Councillor Wood. And can I have a seconder? Councillor Dean. Thank you. All those in favour? Thank you. Any against? No. Any abstentions? Thank you very much. Item 3, declarations of interest. Does anyone have any interest they need to declare this evening? Councillor Kingston.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just with regard to agenda item number 7, I don't know whether it is anything that just needs to be noted for the sake of being safe about this, just that I was the original petitioner who brought the petition to full council to see a front desk service return to the town centre.
Thank you, Councillor Kingston. That will be noted. Thank you. Item 4 on the agenda is to receive any announcements from the Mayor, Member of Cabinet and Chief Executive. First, I'd just like to say a really positive announcement for Tamworth, so I'm really happy. Tonight we are launching a piece of work from the Tamworth Unity project called We Are Tamworth. It's a video aimed at promoting unity across the communities within Tamworth following the awful events of August the 4th. It's a great contribution by the CIC, and I'm really pleased that they're here this evening in the room, so thank you very much for attending and thank you for what you've done. They've put together this great video. I'm sure you will all agree that Tamworth is a place where we could all continue to promote unity and cohesion, and now we're going to watch the video that they've kindly put together and put their time, so thank you.
The amazing thing about Tamworth is its people, and we wanted to do this video unity project to showcase that no matter where you're from or what background, we are all Tamworth and we are stronger together.
I love Tamworth because of the people, the history and just the amazing place that it is.
People are really friendly, they're diverse.
The place where I live, my neighbours and the whole area is absolutely wonderful.
I love Tamworth because our students within our town are confident, responsible and aspirational for their futures.
I love Tamworth because of the entertainment. It has a good cinema, good football places and good parks.
I love Tamworth because it's an epicentre of Anglo-Saxon history, or having been the birthplace of Robert Peel, who went to found the police force.
I love Tamworth because my parents, my family and all my mates live here as well.
What I love about Tamworth is the great pub scene, the pub heritage and the great ales.
I love Tamworth for its creativity.
What I love about Tamworth is the nature and the space for helping people.
There are so many community groups and charities that are always willing to lend a hand at the drop of a hat to anybody that needs help or support.
I like playing. I like the theme park. I like Drayton Manor because I can go on all the rides.
As leader of the council, I'm able to work with all the organisations we have in Tamworth.
Within my organisation, I've got passionate committee staff to making a difference.
There is so much good that goes on here.
At the Manor House and Food Bank, we fed over 5,000 people this year already because of your generosity. Thank you.
I love being a student at Riverside High School because it's good and the lessons are fun.
I love Tamworth because I like going to Peck Street.
We love Tamworth.
The place is beautiful and the people are beautiful, and from my perspective I can see God everywhere and in everyone.
I love working with other churches and everybody's so supportive and inclusive.
For over 1,300 years, this ancient and historic borough has punched well above its weight and been at the very heart of English and British history.
Everyone from all the communities pulls together and makes it what it is.
I love Tamworth because every time that I go out, I see people working really hard to enrich their community.
and to support people, whether it's their friends, their neighbours, or people that they don't know.
I love being the Mayor of Tamworth because I get to see so many different aspects of the town that you'll never see before, see the diversity we have, the great local businesses that are popping up all the time, and like I say, it's just a special place to raise your family.
The whole town is brilliant at coming together and helping each other. It is just a brilliant town, and I love it.
We are Tamworth.
We are Tamworth.
We are Tamworth!
So that was a really great video, and thank you to Jake as well for putting that together. It was well put together, thank you. Moving to item 5, which is update on an urgent decision. I'm going to hand it up to yeah, item 4. Oh, I've got count. Yeah, sorry, yeah. There's nothing from me, so I'm going to go to the members of the cabinet then. Councillor Daniels.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Thank you so much for showing that video. This kind of builds on this. I wanted to just celebrate some of the events that have taken place in Tamworth over the summer and autumn, and publicly thank those who've been involved in making that happen, because we know that it doesn't happen without hours of work and commitment. Amongst others, we have had the D-Day anniversary, Armed Forces Day, the key anniversary for King Athelstan, Wheel of Tamworth, Streets Eats and Beats, the Art of Tamworth in Dine and Devour, not to mention a wealth of other in our local villages. These only happen because a huge number of organisations, groups and individuals step up. They organise, attend and encourage people to participate in their activities and talk to them, and in doing so, like the video, they signpost what Tamworth has to offer in terms of charities, arts projects, sports, culture and food. And I hope members and those in the audience tonight had the chance to attend at least one of them, but if not, fear not. One of our Mayor's events is coming up very soon in our ward Bowl Hall. Thank you for hosting it there at Bowl Hall Manor. It's your charity Halloween disco. And in the town centre, the fireworks are on the 2nd of November. But for me personally, on the 10th of November is one of the most important events, the Remembrance Sunday service, and of course at other churches around the town too. Historically, this is a day when many military and youth groups come together to pay their respects for those who served and died, so that we today can enjoy the freedoms as a result of their service and their sacrifice. And I especially wanted to mention that this evening because one of those freedoms is the right to freedom of expression, to be able to debate in a mature and professional manner, recognising each other's differences are what make us so stronger together. I also want to mention service, Mr. Mayor, because an important symbol of the Remembrance Service is the poppy. Thanks to our local branches of the Royal British Legion, the poppy appeal donation supports the needs of armed forces today. And Councillor Bain and I last year were welcomed by Legion members selling poppies last year, and I will be again this year. So members, we know that we are here to help our communities, and volunteering with the poppy appeal is a great way to do that. Councillor Clements, you are a brilliant representative of the Tamworth Royal British Legion, and I'm sure we'll be happy to support anyone who wanted to volunteer this year. I'm looking forward to seeing you all at the different remembrance services across our town.
Thank you, Councillor Daniels. Anyone else from the Cabinet? Anything from the Leader of the Council? No. I'm going to hand over to the Chief Executive for agenda item number 5 then. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In accordance with the Constitution and in consultation with the Leader and also the Opposition Leader, I've taken a decision under the urgency powers to appoint a Section 151 officer within the Council. I'll take the rest of the report as read and note the recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm going to go to agenda item 6, which is changes to committee membership. And bear with me for this one. You will get emailed all these after the meeting as well. So I've got Councillor Kingston will replace Councillor J on appointments and staffing. Councillor Woodruff will replace Councillor J on corporate scrutiny. Councillor Oates will sit on audit. Councillor J will replace Councillor Clements on statutory officer conduct committee. And last one, Councillor J will replace Councillor Clements on Chief Officer Conduct Committee. And that's agenda item 6. Agenda item 7, which is motion on notice. Obviously, I just ask all councillors to, like I say, what Councillor Daniels just said, I'm going to repeat it a bit, show a bit of respect when fellow councillors are talking, and each councillor will get up to, can speak up for 10 minutes. I'm going to hand over to Councillor Summers, who put forward the motion. Councillor Summers.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, officially, this says to give all members the chance to fully discuss the ramifications of reopening Marmian House for a public front desk service and the intention to refurbish the old council chamber for future council meetings. I call it the debate they didn't want us to have. Sounds like a conspiracy theory, Mr. Mayor, but in fact it is just a case of indifference to the rest of the councillors in this room. I quote from an article on the Labour Party website which, without any irony, states, "It's important that decisions are fully scrutinised and all councillors have the chance to have." If that were true, Mr. Mayor, they would have brought the debate here to full council instead of making the decision through cabinet, where there was the least opportunity for challenge, and indeed only 4 people were present to make that decision. The only chance we had was at scrutiny, where 3 of us expressed our very valid concerns and had to endure being laughed at and being treated dismissively. Labour says again on their website, "We arrived at this policy after talking to local people over the past few years," which is strange since the current Labour leader of the Labour group was there at the meeting of the full council when I believe everyone in the room was in agreement to not open Marmian House for a front desk service again. As a Conservative group, we at least gave all councillors a chance to have their say on the proposed closure, did the same courtesy, hence me calling for this meeting tonight. We, as a group, have also not had people at the door asking us to re-establish front desk services, because our voters know, Mr. Mayor, that there is indeed already a service at the Assembly Rooms. I do wonder what question was asked at the doorstep, and wonder if residents would have said yes if they knew how much it would cost to throw money at a building due for demolition year on year. In the scrutiny report, Mr. Mayor, it showed that there are on average 44 interactions a month at the Assembly Rooms. Strangely, in the scrutiny report, it said to justify the reopening that it would be 200 interactions per week. That's estimated. It already shows the lengths being gone to justify this. I also noticed something in the following report after that, which was the IT strategy, where the leader apologised, leader of the Labour group, that it was a mistake in the IT strategy report that was announcing £9,000 to be spent on new audio-visual equipment for meetings at Marmian House, and it said it will be implemented by November. I had it today confirmed that the tender was issued on the 2nd of August, and it closed on the 30th of August. So, the implementation's due to by the end of November, and although I'm told no decisions have been made to award the work yet, I put that the Labour Party never intended to have a democratic discussion about any of this, given the rush to get quotes for the work. With the right layout, this chamber would be perfectly adequate for meetings. It's much cheaper and much more sensible to resolve this as originally planned with the money Conservatives have put in the budget for it, and invest in a historic building that has heritage value, unlike Marmian House. A modest budget would sort out the audio and video that are almost, but not quite there in their adequacy. Labour state that they will investigate other community uses for this town hall. They haven't even got a plan for that yet, and it will likely be closed and neglected. What better use for this building than what it was originally built for, to have our meetings here? To my knowledge, not one person in any council group or any independent has an issue with having a front desk service. It was always the Conservative plan to move it to a place more fit for purpose. Marmian House is not that place for meetings or front desk services. What you are proposing to do is wrong, regardless of politics. You cannot justify spending so much of taxpayers' money on a building that by rights should already be pulled down. Problems getting rid of that building could be overcome if effort was put in. Now, we know, as sat here, that, and we aren't naive, any vote we have tonight on any motion that may be proposed against these proposals will be symbolic. We aren't blind to the fact that all of your votes don't make it right, though. And I would ask Carol Dean, Councillor Dean, in fact, whether her group have been whipped to vote against our motions tonight, or declare that they can vote freely with their conscience against this. Either way, I would hope that they do that in the best interests of the people of Tamworth. Talking of the people of Tamworth, the audience on YouTube, sadly, you are watching the last-ditch attempt to stop the Labour group carrying out the equivalent of going outside and setting fire to the best part of £1 million in cash of your money. We are sorry we couldn't stop this, but we tried. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Summers. Does anyone want to debate? Oh, Councillor Oates.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On what was a longer introduction than I expected, I'd like to move a motion. However, before doing so, just a very brief bit of background. The decision to close Marmian House was taken several years ago, and it was taken as a response to the COVID pandemic. And it wasn't taken lightly. It was taken because we saw we had to do something. My very first week as a cabinet member back in 2004, former councillor John Garner said, first thing we need to do is get rid of this building. It's inefficient, it's costing us a fortune. Well, 20 years later, guess what? We're discussing this same building as we were then. Now, the decision to close Marmian House at the time was the correct decision. The decision to dispose of the building is still the correct decision. It is a poorly built, inefficient property. The decision to relocate the front desk is absolutely right, and there should be a front desk presence in the town centre, and we have all agreed on that many times. What we shouldn't be doing is confusing an equality and equity access to service issue with an asset management issue. The asset is beyond its lifetime. What I would like to do, Mr. Mayor, is move the following motion, that this council takes time to review the current situation in terms of property and the provision of a front desk, and future-proof the Borough Council's headquarters and front desk. In order to do that, we ask that the council considers all available options, including the recently marketed Moorgate School, which is a Grade 2 listed building, I believe, only a few hundred yards away from Marmian House, securing heritage for the town, securing the opportunity to make things right and create our own space, and dispose of the awful 8-storey building which blots our landscape and view of Tamworth. So, Mr. Mayor, I move that we take a strategic review and consider all options, including the possibility of purchasing Moorgate School for a new headquarters for Tamworth Borough Council. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to second that motion and reserve the right.
Obviously, it's been proposed and seconded. Is it possible to get that in writing sent across, please? Yeah, no worries. Thank you very much. Just so we've got the correct wording for the motion, that'd be great. Is there any questions on that? Oh, sorry, Councillor Clem. Is there any questions on that motion? No. Shall we go to debate then? And who would like to start the debate? Oh, on the motion. Anyone? No? We're just going to. There's no debate. Oh.
I'll read what I've got to say, but I'm not sure if it quite fits in. But you seem to have missed a step out somewhere.
Oh, okay. Fair enough, Councillor Clemens.
Thank you. Everyone, take a look around. This is what democracy and debate looks like. Everybody in the room having their say. I don't believe it was a deliberate attempt to shut us up, or more like a lack of understanding on how the workings of the council are carried out. Why did 4 people think it was okay to pass this through Cabinet? Why didn't the executive team say something? We are all aware the decision to close Marmian House was taken several years ago. Since then, there have been considerable changes within the economy and service needs from Tamworth Borough Council, following the COVID pandemic, etc. For these reasons, I strongly believe it is now time to make a strategic review, as Councillor Oates has just said, where we are now and where we need to be to future-proof Tamworth Borough Council's headquarters and a front desk opportunity. The decision to close Marmalade House, as we call it, as it's always been a sticking plaster, was the correct decision and dispose of the building, reducing the cost to our council. However, since that decision, the building has remained underutilised and remains a burden to our town's resources. Everybody's moved out. Children's services are now in the library. Social services are out there. It's an 8-storey building that we can no longer fill and utilise. The building needs assessing and it needs marketing for sale urgently, or at least let's raise it to the ground. Over the last few weeks, I've been told by several Labour councillors, we're wasting our time tonight because you've got the numbers in the room. There was even a suggestion that's already been mentioned that you've had the whip put on you. And if you read a certain website in Tamworth, it was confirmed there by a Labour councillor. I urge officers and the leadership team with the cabinet to really take a look at what you're about to do. Yes, Tamworth needs a workable front desk and a separate room for privacy, but it doesn't need an 8-floor building where most of the staff no longer work from. Most services are being relocated elsewhere. Staff have home working contracts. How much is that going to cost for the change those contracts? Take a look at one of the units we already own, see what can be done, and let's make a sensible and make the right choice for everyone, and let's not have a vanity project that serves the few and not the many. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Clement. We're still in debate. Does anyone want to debate? Councillor Sam Smith first, then Lewis Smith. Councillor Lewis Smith afterwards.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just wanted to first of all by saying that I've actually been quite open on this issue, and as Councillor Summers alluded to, it did come to scrutiny recently. There has been voices on both sides, although one thing I would say is that it's not necessarily a one-side issue or either side issue. There are multiple streams to this. Members of the public might not be aware, for example, that it's not a question of just reopening the reception at Marmian House. We of course have the assembly rooms and the information centre. So many would like to actually see a new front reception, but don't necessarily think it should be done back at Marmian. And a recent comment by, I certainly won't be mentioning any names, by a member of the opposition and the controlling group, quote, "We realise this might not work, who's to know?" It doesn't particularly fill you with a huge amount of confidence. So I do raise concern tonight on why reopening Marmian House might not be the best idea and why an alternative location could be a better option. Reopening Marmian House comes with a hefty price tag. The proposed changes include major modifications to the reception area, which will cost a lot of money, plus there will be ongoing maintenance and operational costs, staffing costs. Given the current economic situation, we need to be smart with our spending and consider more affordable or return on investment alternatives. Marmian House has been underused since the reception was closed, and it's become a bit of a burden to the town's resources. This makes reopening Marmian House even less practical. We need to make steps to dispose of this building as quickly as possible. It's also worth noting that the council has previously voted not to reopen Marmian House, which reflects the consensus on its impracticability. There's also a historic building in the town that has served our community well for over a century. It offers us a chance to bring ownership back into the borough and repurpose a significant piece of our heritage. And I allude to Councillor Jeremy Oates, who mentioned that as part of the motion tonight. By choosing an alternative location, we can avoid the high costs of refurbishing Marmian House and invest in a facility that better suits our needs. This aligns with our goal to make every contact count and manage inquiries at the first point of contact. In conclusion, while reopening Marmian House might seem like a good idea, the financial and practical realities make it less wise choice. I urge everyone to think with their own minds and use common sense. Let's take this opportunity to establish a new, efficient and cost-effective customer service centre reception at an alternative location. This way we can ensure that Tamworth Borough Council remains future-proof, responsive and dedicated to serving our community in the best way possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Samuel Smith. I'm going to hand over now to Councillor Lewis Smith. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to just confirm that none of the Labour councillors have been whipped tonight. I'm taking the words out of Councillor Dean's mouth. None of us have been whipped tonight. If we do vote in favour or against anything, everyone's doing it on their own volition, okay? So just clarifying that. Right, so whilst out campaigning, our group consistently heard that there was a desire to see the return of a visible, accessible, face-to-face council service. I won't go over my anecdotal evidence again, that I did in corporate scrutiny, but I will mention that it's been backed up by the council's own research, as I previously mentioned when this item went to scrutiny. The corporate plan priorities consultation saw 23% of people say their most important priority was regarding council accessibility and communication, the focus being based on reopening council offices, improving face-to-face services, communication, public engagement and accountability. We can deliver what the people of Tamworth have asked for through the opening of Marmian House and the front desk. There are some costs to reopening Marmian House, as we've seen in the reports, which are mainly to do with meeting health and safety standards and IT infrastructure. We're yet to award the contract, as Councillor Summers has said, regarding the AV upgrade. So those costs are yet to be fully confirmed, although the costs would apply regardless of where we were to decide to turn into the committee chamber. The previous administration planned to spend £688,000 on turning the town hall into a glorified committee chamber. Our project is using some of the funding from that project to open both a committee chamber and the front desk for much less, with plenty of money left over to ensure that the town hall is well maintained and protected. As I've stated before, the costings are as follows. For the committee chamber, the refurbishment will be around £30,000 at a high estimate. Reasons being, but not limited to, flooring being unsuitable due to chairs that were previously nailed down, being removed, leaving holes in the ground, and lighting needing changing. Where am I? Sorry, I've just lost where I was. Yeah, the costing for the front desk is around £50,000 for the refurbishment, £10,000 for IT and £20,000 for ancillary costs. Health and Safety have declared that the desk there is currently unsafe for use and the IT services there desperately need updating. So that's some of the reasons for the costings there. So it's only £80,000 for the reopening of the actual front desk. Staffing costs to cover the proposed opening times stand at about £57,000 per year, which is far, far less than the £1 million the opposition wrongly claim. Of course, there are running costs of the building itself, but as long as we are using the building for officer use, those costs are going to continue to apply. The introduction of the front desk and allowing other services to use the space will allow us to make the most of an underused asset. Even if we did decide to move out of Marmian House, as I'm sure the opposition know, that would not be a quick move. We would need a solution in place before we could consider leaving. When we came to power a few months ago, there was no plan to reintroduce front-facing services. There were ideas that were considered by previous administrations, such as a new building up at Gungate, which unfortunately we were unable to secure funding for, a site in Ankerside, which was deemed too expensive, and the Moorgate site, which was deemed unsuitable. Their plans, which were tried to looked at by previous administrations, okay? So you have looked at other places and they're unsuitable. None of these ideas have worked out, but the people of Tamworth have still been left without a proper functioning service. What we've done since taking power is decide to use an asset that we already own, can open at the cheapest and most cost-effective price, whilst also taking the time to appropriately assess the options we have moving forward into the future. So in conclusion, we're opening a fully functioning, accessible service at the cheapest possible price, open it in the quickest time possible, whilst also taking the time to develop an actual plan so we can achieve what is best for our town. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lewis Smith. I'm going to go to Councillor Summers now. Thanking you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to reiterate a couple of my points. I mean, for starters, Mr. Mayor, what's this building called? A town hall?
Apparently I've just been confirmed that you've already spoken.
I reserve my right to speak.
Yeah.
And it's on the motion.
Yeah.
Yeah. I spoke
Yeah,
before
you
the
spoke
motion
before,
was
yeah.
even started.
So-
Yeah.
So if you spoke on this motion?
No.
No, that's what. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Right, okay. So what do we call this place? The Town Hall. It is essentially a glorified committee chamber. It always has been. That's what it was built for. I'm sorry, I can't quite understand why we wouldn't have meetings in our town hall. And as for the research that went into reopening another front desk, I'll just reiterate again. We have, in fact, 44 interactions, solid facts, that have now, and I was told off for saying this, been grossly overestimated to be 200 per week if we reopen Marmian House. And as for saying we don't have a fully functional front desk service, that's rubbish. There is one. It's at the assembly rooms. The location might not be to everybody's liking, but it still does the same job, and it's currently saving us a lot more money than having that place open. You're going to drag us kicking and screaming back into the 70s and 80s when that was a monument to councillors and their so-called power, and this is just wrong on every level.
Thank you, Councillor Summers. Still in debate. Does anyone wish to still speak? Councillor Statham, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Firstly, I want to thank the opposition for bringing this motion forward, as it gives us an opportunity to reflect on the return of effective face-to-face council services. I think it's really important to note that council services are funded by our residents, and therefore they should serve our residents effectively and appropriately. Now, the opposition would have the public believe that the current front desk at the assembly rooms is fine, it works, and residents are happy using it. But in reality, the council front desk doubles as a ticket office. Yes, that's right. If a resident wishes to visit the front desk about what can often be highly emotive, private matters, they have to wait in line with the same people buying panto tickets. I've had to direct those facing homelessness to the assembly rooms with all of their belongings in hand to speak to someone at the council. Just imagine you are facing homelessness and you are waiting to speak to someone from the council in a ticket box office. It's a highly inappropriate location for a council front desk, and it cannot be deemed as effective. Now, the opposition called for this meeting, so I'd like to address some of their points. Firstly, it was a Conservative administration who minimised our front-facing council services with no plans to replace them. But isn't that what they'd want the public to believe? The opposition have flip-flopped between ideas for years, predating COVID. So let's run through some of them. Knocking down Marmian House, as they've mentioned this evening. Well, this would cost a fortune and would see very little profit. And where would we put the officers and services who currently work out of that building? Yes, the opposition have painted a picture that Marmian House has been left destitute, empty, a grey elephant, as some put it. But the truth is, people do work in that building, so why would we not return the front desk to where the council already are? We need more than a front desk. We need a hub of our community with the council at the centre of that. The plans drawn up by Councillor Smith and officers truly embodies this. But what about all of the many plans the opposition had previously? Upper Gungate failed to get funding. Anchorside, too expensive. And given the fact that the roof has been leaking in Anchorside for over 5 years, it's not a practical plan. So the opposition tonight have brought an alternative plan for a front desk to this meeting. Why was that not done over the past decades that you have been in power? Only 4 of you have showed up this evening, and it makes me question how important it really is to this opposition. Whilst members may not agree with our decision, it is fundamental that we return effective public services to our residents that are front-facing. I want to thank Councillor Smith and all the officers for all the work they've done around reopening of Marmian House's front desk, and I look forward to it becoming a hub of council services.
Thank you, Councillor Statham. Anyone else want to talk in debate? Who shall I go first? Councillor Couchman, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's well over 2 years since the pandemic ended and normal service at Tamworth Borough Council has still not resumed. The interim measures put in place to begin with have not been ideal, and by now we should have had a fully functional face-to-face front desk where our residents can receive the services and support they need. A lot has been made by the opposition of the viability of Marmian House, and I'm well aware that there were major discussions taking place about the future of this place well over 10 years ago. This is why various floors were rented out to raise additional finances. Since then, the previous administration gave leases to telecommunications companies to put masts on the roof of Marmian House, which I am told provides a good income stream and would cost a considerable amount of money to get out of. There's been a lot of discussion but no action. When we took control in May, we have taken action and made the decision to reopen Marmian House to the public for their benefit, to provide the services they need. For some of our most vulnerable residents, it may be the only conversation they will have that day when they come to report a housing repair, a council tax query, or need homelessness advice. And we should be here to meet their need. A lot has been made by the opposition that it's too expensive to reopen Marmian House. Can I remind you all that it is still open, except not to members of the public. Meetings are still being held there, training for officers and members is still being carried out, so it makes sense to reopen the front desk. The previous regime decided that this magnificent town hall would be ideal for holding council meetings, forgetting that already has a purpose-built chamber in Marmian House. This building is a wonderful part of Tamworth's heritage and has been underused by this council for many years. I know that when I had the privilege of being mayor just over 20 years ago, I was looking for the building to be open to more groups so that we could show off its proud heritage. Unfortunately, that never materialised, and now it has been consigned to be a meeting room a few nights a month in a room that is not suitable for that use. The acoustics make it difficult to hear, and there is very little room for members of the public to see and hear what is going on. The IT system has to be upgraded wherever the council meets, and that cost is the most significant part of the allocated budget. With the Future High Street Project Fund and the Castle Gateway opening up the magnificent views of the castle, we should be, and I know the Cabinet are, exploring, sorry, I should have said the Cabinet is, sorry, poor grammar, is exploring suitable uses for this magnificent building for all Tamworth residents and tourists, not just 30 councillors. The town hall is not the most accessible place to get to if you are disabled. The nearest disabled parking is in Silver Street or in the car park at the bottom of the castle. Still a long way to walk if your mobility is compromised. I also have concerns raised to me by people who don't feel safe walking back to their cars in the dark on their own. The opposition have had years to come up with a plan and failed to do so. They have made extravagant claims about costs, but they have not got a plan. We have a plan, so I will be voting against the motion. And by the way, Councillor Summers, I have not been whipped. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Catchman. Can I just remind people, like I say, you know, when people are talking, please show a bit of respect to them talking. Is there anyone else that wants to speak on the debate? Councillor Dean, thank you. Councillor Couchman, can you put your mic off, please?
Yes, sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you, and apologise if I have to stop partway through. So thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to start by repeating what some of my colleagues have said for our thanks for holding this special meeting so that we can discuss the reopening of the Marmian House front desk, and for giving us the opportunity to highlight that front-facing services will soon be provided for the people of Tamworth at Tamworth Borough Council at their council offices, and let me reiterate that, at the People's Council offices. We're extremely proud on this side of the hall to be able to bring this about just a few months after taking control of the council. And it's a policy that the Labour group totally believe in. Nobody has had to be whipped on this. This was what we went out and campaigned about. It's what we promised, that we would be putting people at the heart of our services, being customer focused. And I think at this point it would be appropriate to thank the officers for all the hard work they've done in getting this off the ground so quickly. Thank you very much for that. Apologies if I repeat stuff that I've said before, but some of it bears repeating. When we were out and about and talking to people, we're continually asked what's going to be happening to Marmian House and why the front doors are still closed, why there isn't a proper, fully accessible facility to talk to TBC staff. The need for this service features heavily in the annual customer survey as well, and when the stakeholder engagement was taking place for the new corporate plan, again it was high on the agenda, with 23% of people surveyed making it a priority. And you've heard some stories from my colleagues about the inappropriateness of the assembly rooms. We don't consider that the offer at the assembly rooms is appropriate for all of our customers. And there are still residents, regardless of what's been said tonight, who don't know that that facility is there. We hear it all the time that people are surprised that that facility is there. A private facility is needed, recognising the need for people to be treated with dignity. After this meeting was called, I did receive one email from a resident, the only email I've received about this action, well, the only one that I've received that disagrees with this action, who didn't understand why we needed to reopen the front desk when you could go round to the security office and speak to somebody. Now, for me, once again, that just isn't appropriate, any more than trying to have a public conversation surrounded by people who are looking to buy gig tickets. Councillor Smith has already addressed the finances around providing this service for our residents and stakeholders. We are using a fraction of the, well, maybe a fraction is going too far, but we are not using all the money that was put aside to do stuff in this building. Part of the issue around how much money it will take is around that any venue that we found would need staff. Any venue that we found now would need work done to make it fit for purpose. And since becoming a councillor, I've heard at least half a dozen venues mentioned that may be fit for purpose, all of which come at a much higher price than using our own building. My problem with the objections to our decision to open up Marmian House is that I have not been able to find any strategic plan which offers a viable alternative. We have Marmian House. It's not going anywhere in the near future because there are no plans. We've heard you talk this evening about how many years ago, 10 years ago, it was decided to pull it down. Where are those plans? Because they are not there. Nobody has done anything about that. The Marmian House is still there. While it's still there, we need to sweat that asset. And at the moment, there is no plan in place for a new forever home for the council. As the controlling group, we do have to have a plan in place to get a realistic vision for our town centre, and that will include the future of Marmian House. Nobody is saying that the plans that we put in place now will be forever and ever, because times change, as we know. In the few months we've been in control, we've been working with officers to renew our corporate plan, ensure our local plan meets government deadlines. We start a local government association peer review this month, and we've commissioned work to bring forward a whole town vision that the council can use as its blueprint for its future direction. The bottom line was there was no strategic plan about the future of Marmian House, and the former decision to tell people prematurely that Marmian House was closed caused us to lose organisations who were renting space within the building. There's also no strategic vision for the town, something we're putting right. And this will include what happens to Marmian House, the assembly rooms, Ankerside, and the long-awaited Gungate site regeneration. With regard to our decision to move council meetings back to Marmian House, again for us, another no-brainer. My thoughts about using this wonderful building as a committee room are well rehearsed. Just the heating and lighting of 2 buildings is mad, And we can have upwards of 20 people who trudge across town in all weathers to hold our meetings in this building, which has poor video services and has very poor seating, sorry about that, people at the back, for members of the public to access their democratic right to attend a council meeting. Again, Councillor Smith has highlighted the cost involved in getting the council chamber up to date, bearing in mind that this building here needed considerable money spent on it to update the IT and make it fit for purpose, if the purpose was for it to be a committee room. The issue here is that we do not see that this building should be just another council meeting room. We want to realise the potential of this building as part of the heritage offer that Tamworth has. And as Councillor Smith has stated, there is still money in the pot to use, but only after we have spoken with groups and residents about their vision for our town hall. And probably most importantly for the town hall, it's what is the appropriate use for a building like this, with all its history, especially when we are looking at what our vision is for the town centre. Surely there should be a large historical element, with the town centre being part of that offer. This Labour group has great ambition for Tamworth and what we can achieve together with the people of the town. And as I've always said, we're happy to work with the opposition constructively for the benefit of the town. And that's why I struggle to understand your opposition to this decision. How many people in this room have had a friend or family member say they would like to speak to someone in person, whether it be at a bank, a doctor's, or the council? For us, this is the pledge we made to the people of Tamworth and the one they voted for in May. And we will not go back on our promise to provide that service. And we look forward to fulfilling our other election pledges. Unfortunately, this will be made all the more difficult due to the financial situation that we inherited. The fact that we're using our reserves to stand still year on year. This is unsustainable, and there will be tough decisions to be made in this year's budget setting. But one thing we will not compromise on is being a customer-focused council. This should be our core offer, and the reopening of front-face services at Marmian House support this policy, and our residents deserve this.
Thank you, Councillor Dean. I've got Councillor Ben Price now. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I wasn't actually going to speak, but something just pricked my ears then, which was something Councillor Dean just said with regards to why opposition members are opposed to the reopening of Marmian House. And I just want to bring members' attention to the minutes of the meeting that was held in this very room on the 19th of March 2024. And it was a very similar meeting to this one. I've got visions of deja vu, apart from the members opposite are slightly different to what they were at that point. But basically, if you scroll through them minutes and you go down to the bottom of the minutes, you'll see that it was resolved by this council, by the members of this council, which is all of us collectively here, whether you were, I realise that some of you weren't elected members at the time, but it was resolved by members of the council that we commit officers to explore options for a town centre location, and delivery model to provide long-term face-to-face customer services for Tamworth Borough Council, supporting the strategy to dispose of Marmian House. So that was number one. It was then agreed that face-to-face customer services will continue to be provided through Tamworth Information Centre at the Assembly Rooms, whilst options for future locations and delivery model are identified and evaluated. And number three, the final one, was it was agreed that front desk services at Marmian House will remain closed. Now, I don't know if that vote was unanimous, I don't recall, but it was certainly agreed enough that motion was passed. All three of them motions were passed by this council. And yet we're stood here tonight debating reopening Marmian House when this council has agreed not to do that. And I would say that in agreeing as a cabinet to reopen Marmian House, you've just flagrantly disregarded what this council decided back in March. And I think what is the point of us all being here and making a collective democratic decision if that decision is then just going to be disregarded? We talk about democracy. Well, that doesn't seem like democracy to me. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councillor Price. Anyone? Councillor Pallett, thank you.
Hello. Thank you. Mr. Mayor, the opposition is stating Moorgate School. Have you, I mean, what plans have you got? Have you had any costings for Moorgate School? Is there anything in your plans for costings, etc.? Or is it just pie in the sky? Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Pallett. Is anyone else want to talk on the debate? Oh, Councillor Margaret Clark, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I wasn't at the meeting that Councillor Price helpfully quoted, and I am a new member of this council, and I really am happy that we are considering a possibility of practical use of the building that we're already paying electricity for and water for, and we have staff there. We're hoping to provide social benefits to the people of Tamworth. With regard to the Tamworth Assembly Rooms face-to-face requirement, so many residents were told you have to do everything online that this ended up with a very young new member of staff being on the telephone all day. I know this because the young gentleman who is no longer with us had a very keen interest in history and kept coming round to a shop that I was helping at to talk about history of Tamworth because he didn't understand everything about Tamworth. That gentleman had a degree in tourism and was all guns blazing to help this town the same as he helped Blackpool. His thesis, which was passed with flying colours when he ended his degree, is now in use in Blackpool and it works beautifully. Wouldn't it be nice if a member of staff like that was still here and could help all of our councillors to make this town a beautiful tourist town? But I intend to try and help in that regard with what little historic knowledge I'll have of this town. But I'm honestly telling you, we have to have face-to-face literally, because being on a telephone and telling members to stay on the internet or on the telephone is not good enough, is it, ladies and gentlemen? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Clark. Still in debate. Anyone else want to? Oh, Councillor Arkney. Yep.
There you go. Oh, thanks. Sorry. Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I don't have a lot new to add to this debate, but I just wanted to stand up as portfolio holder for heritage and address the importance of the town hall. We know it was built in 1701. It was the place where the first ever political manifesto was read in the UK. We know it's a building of supreme historical importance. I also understand that the previous administration allocated funds to the refurbishment of this building with really good intentions, and we wanted to keep this building in use, and I appreciate that. However, as a Labour councillor, we were voted in, and we were voted in to deliver change. We're a different administration, and we have different values from the previous administration. And I think it's important to reiterate our values. We are socialists, meaning that decisions we make will always be in the interest of the public needs above our own. And with that in mind, we made the decision to move funding from a project that would realistically have only benefited the 30 people that use this room, instead to reopen Marmian House. This means reinstating the front desk for Tamworth residents at the same time as being able to accommodate our needs still just as well there. Any move that brings councillors closer to residents is a good idea in my book. So of course I wholeheartedly support this move. With that said, I note that the concerns of members about the future of the town hall, and I want to assure you that I am committed to safeguarding Tamworth's heritage. While we will not be using this space for council meetings, we are already actively exploring ways to ensure that the town hall is both preserved and put to meaningful use.
As you know, this will not be easy. It will take careful planning and foresight, but I have already begun conversations and intend to work closely with heritage organisations and the community to ensure the best use possible for this space. I understand that not everyone in this room is happy about that decision, but given the mutual respect for Tamworth's heritage, moving forward, I would encourage all members to actively participate in those conversations. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor. I think it was Councillor Adams next. Is there anyone else after Councillor Adams?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. To be honest, I'd never understood why you want to get rid of Marmian House in the first place. I mean, it's quite a useful building. The only reason I could ever thought it because it's a vanity project of building a new council building somewhere. But that looked wasting public money, from what I'm concerned. Marmian House, it's all been heavily used by staff at the top and also by the computing infrastructure, servers, all that got to be secure. So even if we did move, we were going to cut the bomb, and it's not going to make any difference. And what we're proposing on the front desk, it probably the most cost-effective method and quick method to get back to good public service. Why delay projects constantly? You have 10 years to sort it out, but you keep on delaying. Even the vote that year, what the delay tactic. I never understood it. Don't you want proper good service to the customers at Tamworth? Proper front desk. Not everyone can use the phone. Not everyone can use the internet. I know my mum can't use the internet good. Good front desk is mandatory for good customer service. And we're here for people, not for ourselves. And I agree, it building is great, but I don't think it's good enough for a council meeting. We can't barely have any residents coming and having a look. We can't have customers coming and have a look. And yeah, I think it'd be perfect at a museum piece. It'd be awesome for multiple groups to use and have it at night museum piece. From what we propose, it's probably the most cost effective route we can go, most efficient route. We should start using Marmian House more. Have other groups come in. They went out some of the floors that we're not using. Not because you don't like the look of it, don't mean it no good. That's what I think.
Thank you, Councillor Adams. I've got Councillor Kingston now.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A little bit of a history lesson. Back in 2014, I was honoured for the first time to be made mayor. This building, at that time, was used twice a year. And it was used for mayor making in May, and it was used for the Christmas full council. To say it was used twice is probably a bit of an underestimation, because people could hire this building out, but the cost was about £70 an hour. May have been a little less, but it was in that region. So I made a decision in my first term of office as mayor. I threw the doors of this building open, and I hosted over 100 separate events, different community groups. I hosted coffee mornings, I invited the public in, and made this building come alive. And the cost to the borough was zero. I paid for it out of my mayoral allowance. We then moved to the second time I became mayor. And I thought I'd try a little bit differently. We were still only holding 2 meetings a year in this room. So I turned around to the then chief exec, and I think it was Annie as well, wherever she is, if she's still here, behind me.
Behind you.
And I said to her, can we reopen this and have council meetings in here? And they tried, and they made it work. So at the same time as still hosting in that second term of office, over 100 different events for community, youth groups, members of the public, and everybody else to come in here and see the building and the artefacts in the mayor's parlour. We also held full council meetings. Sadly though, in March of 2020, when COVID hit, we had to stop. That was really painful to see this building shut up. I'm concerned that despite the reassurances from, I nearly called you the opposition, I don't mean that, I think it just naturally came out, the controlling group are going to lock this building back up again. It terrifies me to think that this building, built in 1701 by Sir Thomas Guy, where Peel allegedly gave his manifesto, his Tamworth manifesto, is going to once more be returned to mothballs. These magnificent oil paintings, their eyes wide open, will sadly not see people again for many, many months, probably ever again. This building is at the very heart of Tamworth. It is incredibly important. We have a 70s monstrosity, an absolutely awful building, just a stone's throw away. It's dreadful. It's horrible. It couldn't even be found a use for when it was Baskerville House, was it, or whatever it was, when it was first built. So the council moved in an effort to stop it lying empty. And now you're proposing spending, initially, we could argue whether it's 500,000, 200,000 or £1 million. Having spoken to some of the people who have been in and given quotes, you're looking on top of that at new windows, at asbestos removal, at other costs as well. You are looking over the next few years at somewhere in the region of £10 million. £10 million to bring back into use a building that serves no purpose.
Sorry, I got a point of order from Councillor Lewis.
You can certainly have that point of order.
Yeah.
It was just regarding the quote for £10 million. It was just, I'm not sure where he's got that one from.
Councillor Kingston, are you able to elaborate where that 10 million is
Elaborate further, certainly. Several of the contractors that have been in and given quotes have made contact with me and have spoken to me about prices for refurbishing Marmian House. I'm not prepared to tell you who they are because they spoke to me in confidence. But on the back of that, those figures are fairly accurate. Now, you have a chance. The petition that was brought to this council by me, signed by over 1,000 residents and debated fully, showed at the time that yes, you are spot on. The services at the assembly rooms are awful, absolutely appalling. They are not fit for purpose. And back in last March, whenever it was that Councillor Ben Clark, 19th of March, whenever that was identified, it was clear at the time that everybody in that room, in this room, although we'd had those temporary services at Marmian House, at the assembly rooms, it was clear that they were a holding position and that we needed something better. But both in that petition and in the vote that was taken on the 19th of March, it was clear that it was not going to be Marmian House. Now you can railroad through, it's your right as the controlling group to just quash the decisions of any group or any council decision made prior to you coming into office. But is that morally the right decision to make? You have to think about that carefully. You mentioned tonight that you have a mandate. Back in May, looking at these figures, you achieved 7,803 votes out of 60,086 residents who were entitled to vote. That's 13%. 13% of the electorate voted for you. Now, democracy is that if you get just one more vote than the then controlling group, that puts you in power. Absolutely right. That's our democracy. That's the way the system works. But does it give you that mandate? I think you need to reconsider. I think you seriously need to ask yourselves, is reopening Marmian House the right thing to do? A better front desk service? Absolutely. I'm with you 100%. It's what we fought for with the petition, with the various rows and questions and debates, but it's certainly not Marmian House. So when you vote tonight, just think, Is Marmian House the right place to do? Could we do it better and cheaper? I'm not suggesting that, what was it, Moorgate School might be the best place to go. All I'm saying is, don't rush into this. Make the decision an informed one. Don't throw this building out. You could, for example, put a front desk in one of these beautiful Market Street buildings. You're finishing them off shortly. Wouldn't it be great to have your front desk there and then this heritage asset just here, operating as both? I don't know what the costs are. I'm just giving you a suggestion to explore. But please, don't do this. You're going to bankrupt us in the long run. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Kingston. Thank you, Councillor Kingston. I've got Councillor Doyle now that would like to speak. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a little bit of a history lesson, right? I was on cabinet. Cheers, Margaret. And I worked with the voluntary sector. I had the portfolio for the voluntary sector. And my job, these microphones are terrible, by the way. I do agree with that one.
Hang on, it's me. Let me turn it down.
Anyway, it's what you call it. I had the portfolio for the voluntary sector, and I was also at one point working with the Police and Fire and Crime Commissioner, Matthew Ellis. Now, I tried to get the voluntary sector to move into Marmian House. They didn't want to touch it. One group in particular, they were adamant that it wouldn't go anywhere near it because they were well suited where they were and had no intention of moving out. And that was a general opinion across all the voluntary groups, right? Now, you next fall back to trying to entice Staffordshire County Council in. Now, it's what you call it. As soon as they get a budget cut, first thing they do is they go. And they did. You'll have trouble trying to get them back because we're going from Conservative austerity to Labour austerity. Nothing's going to change. It's what you call it is going to be a continual drive on reducing costs across all organisations, which is going to make that place very unpalatable for a lot of people, including the council in the future. I do agree that we need a front desk in the town. I fully support that. Going back to Matthew Ellis, when he took over, one of the first things he did is combine the fire and the police service together in sharing facilities. So they've already got 2 facilities in the town. So it's what you call it. They are not going to want to come near Marmian House. So please rethink this. It's an enormous waste of money that can be done more cheaply. You've had a, motion from the Conservatives asking you to consider your approach. That's all. Slightly delay. You talk about working together. Some of the most experienced councillors are actually on this side of the chamber, and they're not kicking up this fuss for the fun of it. It's because they can actually see the mistakes that are being made. So take a step back, take a breath, listen to what's being said, and let's try and find a solution that works for everybody. Marmian, it's a 70s building, the windows are shot, there's so many things wrong with it, and you just want to pump more money into it, which is a mistake. So just all they've asked is to take a step back and look and reconsider. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Doyle. Still in debate, but I think that's do we sum up with Councillor Oates? So do you want me to read out the motion, or it's up to you? Yeah, sum up then, that'd be great. Thank you, Councillor Oates.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, as move of the motion, I'll quickly sum up. So we've heard justification, arguments for, arguments against this evening, and I've scribbled a few notes down. Glorified committee chamber, town hall. It's already been said. That was its original purpose. This is where democracy happens in Tamworth. It always has done. Councillor Kingston, it's rare I name councillors, but the point he raised was absolutely spot on. The first time he was mayor, and the same when I was mayor, we met in here twice. as a council. What Councillor Kingston successfully did was proved that this building doesn't have to be exclusively for one use. When I was mayor, I held a few events in here, nowhere near the level that Councillor Kingston did. The quickest way to destroy a listed building is to stop using it. Very quickly, it gets damp, has all sorts of other problems, and you end up ploughing millions of pounds just to keep it watertight. If you're using a building, you don't get down that line. Former Councillor Gretrix used to tell us that every time we discussed the place. So, what we're asking for is a delay in a strategic review and to consider other options which are included in the motion I very quickly scribbled down and hope the Mayor has the ability to read my handwriting. And the reason we're asking for that delay is not to flip-flop, as we've been accused of. And let's face it, everybody can change their opinion. In 2002, the majority of the public wanted to keep area offices open. Housing area offices all disappeared due to cuts in the budget by the then Labour group. That was 22 years ago. Let's move on. 2006-07. Let's share Marmian House with the County Council. Let's rebuild reception in Marmian House. And we did. And the desk that we thought was going to be used for County Council services turned out to be used by a very successful and very good disability abilities group. Not the County Council, a group supported by the Council. We never got that partnership working 18 years ago. We couldn't fulfil the building's use back then. Could we let it to other people? I'm sick of seeing that sign on the side of Marmian House that says floors to let. I wonder how many times it's been replaced. There is no market for it. That's why it's empty. Not because we haven't tried. But it's not for me to justify what we did or didn't do. What I'm asking for is a delay for a strategic review and to consider other options. And I've included in that consideration of Moorgate School. That's another listed building. That would give us 2 listed buildings we can look after and use. Many councils have a separate town hall to their municipal base. There are a few other things that I want to pick up on that have come out of this debate. Aside from the heritage and the potential loss of this building as a regularly used centre, there were comments made about no forever home being found yet. There were comments being made that will open a front desk and consider other options. Interestingly, back in March, when we discussed this, members who are now in the majority group stood up and said, I don't want a temporary option, I want a permanent one, I want a forever home. I'm proposing we take the opportunity to deliver for those members that said that back in March and deliver for the rest of us and deliver for the public that we find a permanent forever home. Other issues have been suggested, that people voted for change, and there was a list of things given. They're working on a corporate plan, they're working on a local plan, they're working on a vision. That's your job, it's not a revelation, that's what you do. It's not change, we do it every 3 years. It's part of what's being a councillor. Mr. Mayor, I've said it a number of times, Councillor Kingston articulated it extremely well. We're asking for a pause to reconsider the future options for the front desk. Is the front desk suitable in the assembly rooms? If it was, we'd have made it a permanent home. We haven't made it a permanent home. I am, however, going to raise one concern. The point was made that it's inappropriate for somebody who's faced with homelessness to queue up in the same queue as somebody buying tickets for a gig. Someone's homeless, they're in a point of crisis, and I appreciate the sentiment. However, we should never consider that as a point of shame, and we should never expose them as potentially being shamed for their position they're in. They have found themselves in that position, and they've gone to seek help wherever it is. Whether back in the day it was the TIC just over here across the road, whether it was at the Phil Dick Centre, or the Tech as it's now called, whether it was at Marmian House, wherever people present whether they're next to somebody buying a gig ticket or paying their council tax or doing whatever else, they need support and help, and we need to make sure we get the right services there. The environment they're in, as upsetting as it may be, is not the priority. The priority is to get the correct advice and book them a private appointment, regardless of where they present. So, Mr. Mayor, you have the motion in front of you. I hope you can read it. And I now urge everybody to consider what we've discussed, consider a small delay, a strategic review, and find a forever home for Tamworth Borough Council. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Oates. I'm going to read the motion out. Wait, no. Yeah, so I'm going to read the motion out as best as I can. Tamworth Borough Council to hold a strategic review at the current situation and looking at all opportunities that Tamworth Borough Council look at to relocate our headquarters to Moorgate School by purchasing and relocating to Moorgate School. Is that correct, Councillor Oates? Yeah. Okay.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to call for a named vote on this subject so it can be recorded.
Need to see. Yeah, there's more than a second. You've got to get the amount. 6. Yeah. More than enough. Yeah. Fair enough. Yeah. Yeah, there'll be a name vote as the amount was. Okay, I was going to say okie doke then, but I thought better not. Yeah, I got you. Yeah, I got your. Yeah, so we're going to go the name vote. I'm going to go down the order. So this is for or against the motion. The first councillor is Councillor Craig Adams. Are you for or against the motion or abstaining?
Against.
Thank you, Councillor Adams. Councillor Nova Arkney.
Against.
Against, thank you. Okay, Councillor Christopher Bain.
Against.
Councillor Lee Clark.
Against.
Councillor Margaret Clark.
Against.
Councillor Rosie Claymore.
For.
Councillor Tina Clements.
For.
I'm going to call myself out. I'm going to abstain as mayor. Councillor Marion Couchman.
Against.
Councillor Sarah Daniels.
Against.
Councillor Carol Dean.
Against.
Councillor Stephen Doyle.
For.
Councillor Helen Hadley.
Against.
Oh, he's not on my list. Oh, yeah. Councillor David Foster, sorry I missed you.
Against.
Thank you. Councillor Richard Kingston.
For.
Councillor Ken Norkey.
Against.
Councillor Jeremy Oates.
For.
Oh, thought that. Councillor Pat Pallett.
Against.
Councillor Ben Price.
For.
Councillor Lewis Smith.
Against.
Councillor Samuel Smith.
For.
Councillor Natalie Statham.
Against.
Councillor Martin Summers.
For.
Councillor Janice Woodrup.
For.
Councillor Andrew Wells. Oh, this is broke as well.
Against.
Okay, thank you. And Councillor Lee Wood.
Against.
Thank you. Well, don't you're going to take long. Are we counting? The results are as followed. So there's 9 for, 16 against and 1 abstention. That has been ruled against the motion. Thank you. We're going to go now on to agenda item number 8. I'm going to hand over to Councillor Oates, who will put forward the motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The subject item here is winter fuel allowance, and I'm not going to pretend that anybody needs a briefing in terms of the current situation, so I'll go straight to move the motion as printed. And that is that the Council notes the Labour Government's recent decision to restrict winter fuel payments to only pensioners in receipt of means-tested benefits like pension credit, as announced by the Chancellor. That the Council notes the estimated impact of this decision, which Age Concern says will mean 2 million pensioners who badly need the money to stay warm this winter will not receive it. That this Council notes the significant role of the winter fuel payments play in helping older residents of Tamworth and across the UK afford heating during the coldest months, thereby preventing heat or eat dilemmas and safeguarding health. That the Council notes the criticism from Age Concern, the Countryside Alliance and other charities highlighting the social injustice and the potential health risk posed by this sudden policy change. That this Council notes the additional strain the decision will place on vulnerable pensioners, many of whom do not claim pension credit despite being eligible, further exacerbating their financial hardship. I continue to move that the Council believes that the winter fuel payment has been a lifeline for many older people across the UK, and that restricting the availability solely to those on pension credit risks leaving many pensioners in financial hardship. That this Council believes, while some pensioners currently in receipt of winter fuel payments may not require it, many thousands across Tamworth just sit above the cut-off of pension credits and therefore will lose their allowance. That this Council believes the decision to means test winter fuel payments, especially with such short notice and without adequate compensatory measures, is deeply unfair and will disproportionately affect the health and well-being of our poorest residents. That this Council believes that the Government's approach fails to consider the administrative barriers and stigma that prevent eligible pensioners from claiming pension credit, leaving many without the support they desperately need. That this Council resolves to bring forward a Council-led local awareness campaign to alert those eligible of pension credit, in which some respects will help access winter fuel payments in the most need. Requests that the Council leader write to the Chancellor of the Exchequer urging a review of the decision to means test winter fuel payments and asking for the Government to ensure that vulnerable pensioners, including those who do not claim pension credits, are protected from fuel poverty. Commit the Council to protect those pensioners living alone who will lose their winter fuel allowance from any potential of losing their single person's council tax relief. Commit the Council to signing the Save Winter Fuel Payments for Struggling Pensioners petition run by Age Concern, and write to all members offering them the support to sign the petitions themselves, and encourage local efforts to promote pension credit uptake through council services and partnerships and local charities and community organisations such as Communities Together CIC to ensure that all those eligible pensioners in Tamworth are supported in claiming their entitlement. I so move, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Oh, Councillor Clements.
Happy to second that motion and reserve the right, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. Councillor Dean. Going to questions.
Can I just have some clarification about how... Oh, sorry. Can I just have some clarification about how this works? What are the things that we're expected to vote on? Is it all 15 of them? How does this go? Because Councillor Oates has read everything out and I just wondered how it worked. Sorry for my ignorance, but...
No problem, Councillor Oates.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have moved them on block. However, I'm happy for any amendments to suggest pick individual items out and take them. I wouldn't like to take them one at a time because there's a lot. But if there are any particularly that members wish to discuss separately to the rest, then I'm quite happy to take those by exception.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Dean.
Yes, I would like to take the ones that say the council resolves separately, please.
Councillor Oates, have you got anything you want to add to that?
I'm happy with that if you are, Mr Mayor.
Have we is it a second to that, Councillor? Yep, proposed second. Okay. Question time before debate. Any questions? Are we just going to debate? What? Oh, is it just question? Just questions on the motion. Any questions on the motion? Okay. Any debate? Oh, Councillor Kingston.
Yeah, apologies, Mr Mayor. It might be that my hearing aid batteries are playing up. The adjustment that was put forward, was it to remove all the ones that say council resolves to? Could I just have some clarification?
Oh, okay, fair enough. Get some clarity.
I'm not sure why I indicated. Carol moved it, but it was to take the first two sections that the council notes and the council believes as one item, as one motion, to be voted on separately to the council resolves to. So it's not to remove them, it's to take those two in separate parts.
Thank you.
Cheers, thank you. So it's just... Is there any questions on any of them? So, yeah, so just clarification that Councillor Dean wants the council resolves individually. And Councillor, are you still happy to second? That's fine, okay. That's fine. No worries. Still got questions? No? Should we just go to vote then? Yeah. We're going to vote on that amendment. So those in favour of the amendment, and the amendment is doing the council notes and beliefs separate and council resolves, and they'll be done on individual. Yep. Those in favour? Everyone's hands are up. Let's have a look around. Yep. Anyone against? Any abstentions? I'll always abstain. Okay, that's carried. So, yep, vote now. What's what? Yeah, so we would. What do we do? So just now we go to debate, yeah? So, yeah, we're going to start the debate then. Who would like to start the debate? Oh, thank you, Tina. Thank you, Tina. Clarence, thank you.
I'll go first and I'll be really nice. Then it will just go downhill from there probably. As Councillor Foster will know, we hold surgeries in Wilnecote, and I'm holding mine tomorrow instead of tonight because I'm here. And most of those surgeries we get asked about how to fill in forms for PIP payments, how to fill in forms for claiming benefits, because if you're not, number one, if English isn't your first language, and number two, if you don't understand what's been asked of you in those forms, you need help, and you need somebody to help you go through those. And over the last few months, I've constantly had people emailing and asking how they go about claiming the benefit, the pension credits, I believe it is, so that they get these winter fuel payments that they're entitled to, but have now won't get them. My dad is 75 tomorrow, and he's had his winter fuel payment taken off him. We've just lost my mum nearly 2 years ago this December. He's on his own. He hardly puts the heating on anyway, and now he's lost his fuel payment that's going to pay for the small amount of fuel that he uses. He's going to be on his own in a house and potentially cold. We're not going to allow that to happen because he's got 3 daughters that will make sure he's okay. But there are people out there that haven't got anybody. And we hear so often the Labour Party are the party for the vulnerable and the ones at most risk. So as soon as the Labour get into power, they pick on the most vulnerable and the most at risk. Now, I'm not going to turn this into a party political broadcast because that's not me. I'm not an overly political person. I just wanted to make that point that they say that they are the party for the people, the many, not the few, hence the last sentence in my previous statement. So how can you stand up and say you are the party of people that care for the most vulnerable? I don't think you can.
Thank you, Councillor Clements. Still in debate, Councillor Margaret Clark. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I take on board everything that Councillor Clements has said. I'm sure we all have a lot of worries and concerns about our individual people that come up to us. I certainly have. However, the only query I have is that if a petition is being run, individuals have their own democratic right to sign it or not. But on this occasion, I do believe as a councillor, I would be happy for this council to sign as a council. And any person that asks me how I voted, I will tell them that yes, the council voted in favour also, as I did as an individual. So I don't think we can do better than that, because there are limitations to what a local council can do, but we can do as much as we can. So thank you, Councillor Clements. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Clark. Still in debate, anyone? Oh, Councillor Daniels. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Well, I may not entirely agree with the sentiments of my colleague. One of the reasons for that is when in the chamber we mentioned about the vulnerable and those at harm, and in terms of my day job, which is shared by Councillor Smith, Councillor Kingston and formerly by Councillor Couchman, the only people I know who are at risk of dying early this week were a middle-aged man and a teenage girl. None of which was to do with the winter fuel payments. So in terms of what this government is trying to do is try to prevent that. Let me explain why I've mentioned this. It is estimated that about 80% of older people receiving winter fuel payments may not actually need them based on income levels, and this is according to the former Care Services Minister Paul Burstow, suggesting that its better targeting of this benefit could save the UK government around £1.5 billion annually. And so what I think our national government is trying to do is make sure that where money is coming in, it's going to those people who really need it the most. And in terms of needing it the most, it's about kind of raising that awareness of what people are entitled to. I think that one thing that this debate has done, and actually I want to thank Councillor Clements and indeed all members of the opposition for bringing it, is to say, dear members of the public, please use us. We are here to serve. I mentioned that earlier, to allow you that information on what you are entitled to in terms of promoting pension credit, so that you know where to go to be entitled to receive it. Interestingly, and I know we have members in the audience from Tamworth CIC, 11 hours ago, on your Facebook page, you asked the question, have you claimed your pension credit yet? Last week, you managed to help at least 13 people through your eligibility checker, and they were potentially missing out on an extra at least £120 a year of pension credit and the additional benefits and locks. Now they're currently running sessions, and I do note they are face-to-face sessions, Mr Mayor, linking to our previous item on the agenda, that idea of people needing the help, us making sure that they're getting it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Daniels. I've got Councillor Summers. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Very quickly, I'll just say, I think the point's been missed. The cut-off for the pension, for the winter fuel payment is pension credit. And the point is that there are many people who fall just on that line who will go cold. That's the point. Now we keep on hearing, oh, claim pension credit, you'll get your winter fuel allowance, it won't matter. Well, it does to those who can't claim pension credit, and that's quite a lot of people who are going to end up not being able to pay their bills this year. That's the point.
Thank you, Councillor Summers. Oh, Councillor Dean.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just a bit of background on this payment. The winter fuel allowance was first introduced by the Labour government in 1997, another time when Labour were picking up the pieces, and the policy was introduced under Tony Blair at a time when pensioners were significantly more likely to be in poverty and poorer than other cross-sections of society. But the winter fuel payment isn't just for pensioners. It's for people with universal credit, income-based job seekers allowance, income-related employment and support allowance, working tax credit and child tax credit. The problem is that we are in a financial black hole, a £22 billion financial black hole. The last government made commitments they couldn't pay for, they covered it up, and then they ran away. And now there are tough choices to be made, not choices that any Labour government would want to make or expect to make. but they were the right choices in the circumstances. Because by taking the tough decisions now, we have to protect the public finances and so that we can begin the process of change. And Labour is delivering on its manifesto promise to protect the triple lock so that we can put more money in pensioners' pockets each and every year. The full new state pension alone will be worth around £1,700 by the time of the next election. So there will be things coming forward for pensioners who fall into that thing. And whenever you make a policy, there will always be a cut-off and there will always be winners and losers. My father-in-law as well will be losing it. He's 88. It's just one of those things, something we have to live with like other people. But should he be in need of anything, we know that when there is a Labour government, there will always be that safety net there. So there were no easy options, but not acting wasn't an option for the government. The problem is we would have put, if we don't do something about the financial situation, we put financial stability at risk, including the risk of higher debt, higher mortgages and higher costs for the future. And our government wasn't prepared to let that happen. There are some things that continue to stand behind vulnerable households this winter. We're delivering the £150 warm home discount for low-income households from October. The government is extending the Household Support Fund with £421 million to ensure that local authorities can support vulnerable people and families. And this funding is aimed at anyone who's vulnerable and cannot pay for essentials, and you don't have to be getting benefits to get help from the council. There are help out there, as Councillor Daniels has said. The CIC are doing marvellous work, and that will be something I will come on to later when we discuss the resolutions that are going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Dean. Still in debate. Anyone else would like to speak? Councillor Samuel Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Whatever you think of the decision by the government, they did leave you in a bit of a mess because they decided to do it at the same time as massive public sector salary increases, including the likes of train drivers who are paid quite well. So they have left you in a mess. We are where we are. We have to try and make measures to put in measures to mitigate the situation. I would ask members to look over the motion brought forward and the contents of it. You might be scrambling to have a look at the detail. It's nothing controversial. It's all there to help ease the situation. My time in Cabinet, I realised the relationships, the partnerships that we had with various charities and support agencies across Tamworth. I think actually we're literally in the Premier League when it comes to those kind of partnerships. So I would urge at the front of this to ensure that you take actionable measures to contact and create dialogue with those organisations in order to, for example, talk about the pension credit and the available options that are ready for them. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. Still in debate. Does anyone want to say anything? If not, we'll go to the vote. No, Councillor Oates.
Do you want me to sum up, Mr. Mayor?
Yes, why not? Thank you.
Sorry?
No.
I'll be brief, Councillor Clark. Mr. Mayor, councillors, it wasn't too many months ago we had a general election. Do you know what the number one issue was going into the general election? Illegal immigration. You know what the number one issue is that's being discussed right now? Winter fuel payments. It's amazing how the shift has happened by the number of people who are impacted on by this decision. Approximately 9,000 households in Tamworth Borough are impacted by this decision. Now, I speak to a lot of people. It's a joy of one of the jobs I have. And there's a gentleman who speaks to me regularly, who for him, number one, was immigration, and it's now winter fuel payments. No, it's not my dad. But he's now got a new hearing aid, it works. And this particular gentleman I'll refer to is absolutely furious that he's losing his winter fuel payment. And the reason he's furious is because he believes he's done the right thing by working hard throughout his life, trying to save, trying to, make sure he's in a good position when he came to retire. And he's not in the best of health. But he's one of those gentlemen who doesn't claim every benefit he possibly could. Because of the illnesses he has, he'll be entitled to a number of benefits. But he's one of those gentlemen who, I don't know, pride or whatever, doesn't think he needs to do that. And he was asking me the other day, do you think I should start claiming those benefits? Because I've lost this 300 quid. And that's going to cost the government more. My answer to him was, if you're entitled to them, pride doesn't pay your bills. Apply for those benefits. But this has really put him in a quandary, because that winter fuel payment, he's being removed, he's taken that as a personal dig. He's not taking it as an opportunity to seek alternative help. He's taken that as a personal dig because it just appeared out of nowhere and he wasn't expecting it. And I think this sentiment is held by a number of people in the public. So I think the issue here is the sudden vulnerability that this has put onto people. And this is why we're asking for some support in terms of the messaging. The only controversial thing I'll say in this part, because I'm going to try and be nice, is we've just had the spokesperson for the government explaining the background as to why it's happened. And in that, there was an explanation of a black hole and having to make difficult decisions. My response to that is you can't have it both ways. Either own the decision or blame somebody else for it. You can't own it and blame somebody else. So are you owning it and saying we need to provide change? Or are we going, the last lot did this, or the last lot have gone now? Own your decisions and stop blaming others. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Oates. Obviously, when we go to the vote, it's going to be on the first two, which is Councillor Notes and Councillor Beliefs, because they'll be moved on block. Those in favour, please raise your hands and keep them up so I can count. Yep. Thank you very much. Those against, please raise your hands. Yeah. Thank you very much. Any abstentions? Yeah, that's been against, rejected. Okay, so now we're going to go to the council resolves. Do we have to go questions on this as well? Is it questions again? Or is it a debate, isn't it? It's just straight to debate, isn't it? Yeah. Yep, so we're going to go to debate on council resolves 2, and these motions will be done individually. So does anyone want to kick off the debate? Oh, Councillor Carradine.
Thank you. On the first council resolves, talks about a local awareness campaign. This is already being done. As you would expect, our officers were bringing forward plans as soon as the announcement regarding the winter fuel allowance was made to work with the voluntary sector to provide widespread support to residents who need help applying for pension credit. So I would like to make a slight amendment to the wording of this council resolves to, instead of bring forward, to say continue with a council-led awareness campaign to alert those eligible of pension credit, which in some respects will help access to the winter fuel payment for those most in need.
Councillor Jeremy Oates.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. An amendment has been moved. I can either second that and we can go to a vote, or I can agree to change the original motion to include those letters and we can progress with that amended motion for that item.
I'm happy to do that. Yeah. Are you moving to amend it, basically?
Moving to accept the change in wording on that item that
Yeah, to continue instead of... Yeah.
Otherwise, we're getting to
Yeah.
vote for the amendment, blah, blah, blah. Actually, yeah, I'm happy to,
Yeah. Thank you very much for that. Save some time. So we're still in debate. So, yeah, we need to vote on that, don't we? Well, yeah, we need to vote for that amendment. So all those in favour of the amendment? Oh, does anyone want to speak first? Sorry, my bad. Yeah, on item 1, does anyone want to speak first before we go to the amendment? Oh, sweet, that's a bonus. Those in favour? I'm tired. Any against? No. Yeah, that's carried. Thank you. So we're still in debate. Anyone want to speak? Yeah, we've done the first one. So item 2, second one. We're going to debate on that one. Does anyone want to start that one? Oh, Councillor Dean again.
Right, the next one then, requests that the council leader writes to the Chancellor of the Exchequer urging a review of the decision to means test the winter fuel payment and asking the government to ensure that vulnerable pensioners, particularly those who do not claim pension credit, are protected from fuel poverty. This isn't something that I can support because I'm already working with our MP Sarah Edwards to lobby the government to protect the most vulnerable pensioners from the hardship this may cause. And will be writing to Rachel Reeves asking that the government will be putting policies in place to protect those vulnerable pensioners. This has already started with the stuff that I spoke about earlier with Labour's manifesto pledge to protect the triple lock and put more money in pensioners' pockets, and the increase in the new state pension, which I'll say again will be worth £1,700 over the Parliament, and also the extension of the Household Support Fund. So I think there are lots of things in place, but I am quite happy to write to government to ask that support is there, but I will not be asking them to change their mind.
Thank you, Councillor Dean. Still in debate on point 2. Who else would like to speak? Nope. Okay, we're going to go to the vote then on point 2. So those in favour? Let's see some hands. 1, 2, 3 again. Those against? I'm abstaining. Yep, that's been voted against. We're going to go to item 3. Going to go to the debate again. Anyone want Councillor Dean on item 3?
Thank you. I'll just read it out then. Commit the council to protect those pensioners living alone who will lose their winter fuel allowance from the potential of also losing their single person's council tax relief. Now, as far as I'm aware, this is an untruth that is going around social media, scaring people into thinking that the single person supplement is going to be taken away. I'm not aware of this being an actual policy, and we shouldn't encourage those untruths because, so this is something, again, I couldn't support because it's not actually something that's happening.
Thank you, Councillor Dean. Still in debate on point 3. Who else would like to speak? Councillor Stevens.
Yeah, it's just to note, if that comes out in the budget, happy to support it, but until we have the budget and we know exactly what's going on with that policy, I don't want to support that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Still debating point 3. Anyone else would like to speak? Oh, Councillor Oates, thank you.
If I may respond as the mover of the motion, I read it in the press. I didn't read it in social media. And in response to the point, if it comes out in the budget, absolutely. All I'm asking for now is a commitment that we will protect those pensioners. I'm not asking for a specific action, but a commitment to act in the way that Councillor Statham has suggested, should it come out in the budget. And as we stand here, some people are closer than I am, but as we stand here, we don't know what is actually going to come out in that budget. So I'm just asking for a commitment that we protect those pensioners living alone who will lose their winter fuel allowance from any potential of losing that relief. My fear is, if it does come out in the budget, and as you say, until we see it, we don't know, that then we'll be on the back foot and having to respond to it after it's been announced. I'm just asking for a commitment that we will do our best to protect those should it happen, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councillor Oates. Still in debate. Oh, that was closing actually. So we're going to go to the. He's finished it. Yeah, we finished it, unfortunately. So we're going to go to the vote on that one. So those in favour of motion point 3, raise your hands. There you go. Those against, please. Abstaining, yeah. That's been voted against. Thank you. Going to point 4 on this. Going to debate. Who would like to speak on this? I'll go Councillor Dean first and Councillor Daniels after.
Right. The next resolution then is commit the council to signing the Save the Winter Fuel Payment for Struggling Pensioners petition being run by Age UK and write to all members, offering them the opportunity to sign the petition themselves. I'm unable to support this as the final paragraph in this in their petition asks the government to halt their proposals. As I've already stated, the government has had to take these tough decisions to balance the books. What we need is interventions in place to support those who will struggle without this payment. But we can't be cavalier with the country's finances. We have to put our energies into protecting those in need, not continuing to give £300 a year to millionaires. As for other members signing the petition, we haven't whipped anything yet today, and I'm quite happy for members, whichever side they're on, to come to their own decision about whether they sign it as an individual.
Thank you, Councillor Dean. Councillor Daniels.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just reiterating what I said at the very start, the idea of people having the freedom of expression, and if people as individuals want to sign that petition, of course they can. And I want to thank Councillor Oates and team for kind of raising that if people are not aware of it and the issues that it raises. It also gives us the opportunity once again reiterate why that change is coming in, the fact the pension is going to be increased, the fact that they're going to be looking again at pension credit, and the household, just wrote this down, extended the household support fund. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Daniels. Councillor Stephen Doyle.
I'm a bit dismayed by the speech from the leader of the council. The millionaires. I'll let me mum and dad know. Thank you for that.
Thank you, Councillor Doyle. Anyone else want to talk in the debate? No? Do you want to close them up? Close it? Just move, okay. Okay, we're going to go to the vote then. Those in favour of point 4. Those against point 4. Any abstentions? Yep, that's been voted against as well. I'm going to go to point 5 for this, the last one. Who would like to start the debate? Councillor Dean.
Yes, I support this, but I would like to strengthen it a little bit and make amendments to it and change the wordings to that this council welcomes the government decision to extend the household support fund with a further 421 million, and that we continue to support local efforts to promote pension credit uptake through council services and partnerships with local charities and community organisations such as Community Together CIC, Heart of Tamworth and Home Energy Advice Tamworth, to ensure that all eligible pensioners in Tamworth are supported in claiming their entitlement.
Thank you. Councillor Dean. Councillor Summers.
Thank you. That would politicise a proposal that is in fact not political in any way. That is wholly wrong and totally misses the intention of it.
No worries. Sorry, is there a seconder for Councillor Dean's amendment? Councillor Catchman. Okay. So we're going to go to the debate on that amendment then. Yeah, we're going to go to the amendment. So, yeah. Anyone want to debate that amendment? go to the vote on the amendment that was put forward by Councillor Dean. Do we need to hear it again? Does anyone want to hear it again? No. So anyone? Okay. Those in favour of the amendment by Councillor Dean, please raise your hands. Thank you very much. Those against? I'm abstaining. So the amendment has been passed. Sorry? Yeah. So continue with the motion. Yeah. So we're going to continue with the motion. That's there. Yeah. You're going to debate the new motion. Yeah. So we're going to debate the new motion then, because we've passed it, but we've got to debate it. Yeah. So does anyone want to debate the new amendment? Okay, Councillor Dean.
Can I just refer back to what Councillor Summers says? I included the Household Support Fund because this is something that specifically comes to local councillors, and I thought it was something that we should celebrate because it's a way that we can actually help our residents.
Does anyone else still want to debate the amendment? Councillor Couchman. Sorry?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would just like to thank the CIC for the excellent campaign that they're operating and the amount of work they're doing to inform all our local residents of the available help. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Price.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to echo Councillor Couchman's thanks to Tamworth CIC and other local charities, but ask the question why we are relying so much on local charities to support the vulnerable and most needy within our town.
Thank you, Councillor Price. Anyone else want to speak in the debate? If we're done with the debate, then I will go to the vote. Those in favour, please raise your hands. Of Councillor Dean's amendment. Yeah. Oh, yeah, we've got a vote on them. We've got a vote on the motion. Yeah. Vote
So we have voted.
Yeah.
And the motion has been amended.
Yeah.
So it now becomes a substantive motion.
Yeah.
So what's on the table now is the motion with Councillor Dean's amendment already included. So it's now the substantive.
Sorry. So vote in favour of your wording, yes. Yep, those in favour. Yeah, no. Yeah, those against.
I've got a point of order.
Oh, point of order. Okay.
I'm sorry if I seem a bit thick tonight, but you're going to have to explain to me exactly what we're voting for, because I've got confused. Well, I've not got confused, it just seems a little bit... I want some clarity on it, please.
Yeah, so we're voting for Councillor Dean's amendment, which is a substantial reclaims a motion. Yeah, Jeremy will answer this better for me. He'll get this one.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So the wording in the original document has been amended successfully by Councillor Dean's amendment. So we are now have the opportunity to vote for the new motion, which is Councillor Dean's wording with the second half of what was printed in there and the additional bodies involved. So the amendment has been passed. Councillor Dean's motion now becomes substantive. So we're voting on Councillor Dean's motion.
Thank you for that clarity.
Would you require Councillor Dean to say the words again? Or, okay. And I apologise for not being more clear. I apologise for that. So those in favour, please raise your hands to Councillor Dean. Thank you very much. Anyone against? Any abstentions? Me? Then that's been carried. Thank you. So that brings us to the end of the evening. I'd like to thank everyone for watching, thank everyone for attending, and thank everyone for their input. I apologise on my behalf for not flowing as well as usual, so I apologise, but I'll close this meeting at 8:10, and thank you for attending, and thank you for those watching on YouTube. Thank you.